The next feature I want to show you is the multi-link codes. So the multi-link code feature, it's this button on your transaction entry screen. For those of you who have never used it before, I just want to explain what it is. The multi-link code allows you to basically create a shortcut code or a shortcut code that will group certain procedure codes together. So in my example, I'm going to use this one for diabetes screening. If I select that multi-link code and put my date of service in here and hit create, it's going to add all of the procedure codes I need for that diabetes screening. So you'll see those have loaded in there. You'll notice though, the diagnosis code pointers, that setting does not apply when you're using the multi-link code. You can actually set your pointers in the multi-link settings, and I'll show you that in just a second here. So I just wanted to point that out. So if we go, you're going to set up your multi-link codes under the list menu. And you're going to go down to multi-link codes, the sixth one down in your list. And these are the ones I currently have on the screen. So I'll show you how I set this one up that I used in the example. I'm just going to double click to edit. If you're doing a new one, there's a new button. Excuse me, I'm going to go back a sec. At the very bottom left corner, there's a new button if you need to add a new one to your list. So I'm going to show you the example I already have set up. So in the top left corner, you're going to give it a name. That would be your shortcut or a code. That would be your shortcut code as far as what you want to quickly key in that multi-link drop-down list to tell it to grab this specific group of codes. And then you're just going to give it a description. So whatever you would call that group of codes, in this case, I just called it diabetes screening. And then you're going to select your diagnosis codes. This is where you can actually default diagnosis codes. So I put these two diagnosis codes on there in my example. It allows you to put as many as you have in your settings. So you notice here in my program options for diagnosis codes, I had 8. And so here it's listing 8. If I change it to 12, you're going to see 12, or I can change it to 4 to limit that. So whatever number of diagnosis codes, that's what's showing here as far as the boxes go, the fields. So you can default whatever diagnosis codes you need for that particular multi-link code for this diabetes screening. And these are going to be added to all 4 or all of the codes down here, all the charge lines. So just keep that in mind. So whatever you default up here at the top, those 2 diagnosis codes are going to be added to all 4 of these charge lines. And then you're going to, at the bottom half of the screen is where you're going to select your procedure codes that you want to show up when you select this multi-link code. So I've grouped all 4 of these together. You can also default the number of units that you'd like. So these are the new fields. So for those of you who are using the multi-link before, the only thing on here was procedure codes. That's the only thing you were able to default before. But now you can default diagnosis codes, units, modifiers, and the diagnosis code pointers. So a lot has been added to this screen to make it a lot more useful. So you can actually change the number of units if you'd like. Let's just say that was 2 for whatever reason. And then you can add modifiers. So I just have a 25 modifier here on the first one. And then you can tell it which diagnosis code pointers you want it to use or populate on your charge lines. So in this one, in my example, I want it to populate my office visit with both diagnosis codes. But then for everything else, I'm just going to have it use a diagnosis code pointer to point to the first diagnosis code. So when you've got this all set, you'll just click save, and you can add as many of those as you'd like. Make as many shortcuts as you like for different scenarios, different kinds of visits. And then to use that, I'm just going to hit multi-link again. So you can see the difference here. And I'm going to select it. And this time I'll just use today's date and hit create. And then you'll see it added 4 more of those procedure codes with today's date here. And there's my 25 modifier, my 2 diagnosis codes on all 4 charge lines. But then you'll see down here, it only pointed to 1 and 2 for my office visit, for the middle line, and then the last three, it only has one diagnosis code pointer. So we hope you find that useful. It is a huge shortcut for those of you who are constantly adding multiple procedure codes. Huge shortcut. Highly recommend you go in and add it.
Hey, thanks for watching our video. If you want more videos like this, be sure to subscribe and also do us a favor and click that like button. Thanks again and see you on the next one.